Good morning and welcome back to the 120th. Today we are talking about antique lenses. Now specifically I'm not talking about kind of vintage lenses, so those Leica lenses or the kind of 50s onwards lenses that are so popular with 35mm digital shooters these days. What I'm talking about is large format lenses, and specifically the really old ones, so stuff from the end of the 19th century or turn of the century or early 20th century. Some of them are very popular, some of them are not, some of them will cost you an arm and a leg, some of them you can pick up dirt cheap. What I want to know is, what's the difference? What is that kind of special look that you're achieving with older lenses? I have managed to acquire a variety of older lenses, either by design or by chance. Some of them I get great results from. My photography is not really consistent enough, and I don't mean that necessarily just in quality, but consistent enough in subject and genre for me to really make a big judgment on which lenses are better than others or which ones I really like. I know that I've got some good results from some of them and less good results from others. So what I wanted to do is take a handful of these lenses out and let's shoot them all side by side and let's see what the difference is. So first of all, let me introduce you to the lenses. First up, we have an Emil Busch Rapid Aplanat number 2, Series D, 8-inch I believe it is, approximately an f6 or an f6.5. That one you've seen before. I had that with me out in South Africa and I was doing some landscape stuff, and I got a nice photo out of it. I got a couple of nice photos out of it that I was very happy with. This one is mentioned in the lens vademecum, and it should be dated to somewhere around 1905, I believe. So very old lens, in relatively good condition. Optically it's pretty clear. Looks like some separation around the edges of the elements of the first group. So it's kind of sparkly effect. I don't know if you can see it around this edge. Doesn't look traditionally like what I would expect separation to look like, but I couldn't tell you what else it might be. Realistically, not going to cause us many problems out there on the outside of the lens. This one actually has some bizarre markings on for the aperture. So the aperture markings go from 6 to 12, 24, 48, and onwards up to 384. So not your traditional aperture markers. So I will need to figure that one out. Next up, another one that has been on the channel before. This is a Ross of London Teleros 9-inch f5.5. I know a bit more about this lens and can be more certain of its focal length and aperture because it's a bit more modern, and therefore it's all written on it. This one again in the lens vademecum, and I believe I've dated it to approximately 1924. So like I say, a little bit more modern than the rest of the lenses I'm going to show you today, but still pretty old. That's 100 years old. And I have had that one out before and I've had some quite nice results from it. Looking a little bit like it needs a bit of a clean now, but I will do that before we go. But in general, in pretty good condition, not seeing too many issues with that. Once again, actually, around this kind of far edge here, there's some sort of twinkling, as if there has been maybe a chip or some impact damage at some stage. But again, looking down the middle, looking pretty good, pretty clear. 9-inch f5.5, so that should be quite a nice one. Now, these next two, and you're going to hate me for this, but I have been gifted these by my wonderful uncle, who found out that I was, into cameras and stuff, and said, "Oh, I've got these lenses I've had lying around for ages. Would you like them?" So I said, "Yes, I would." I'm not, into the money. There's nothing that's worth 10 grand here, but some lovely old lenses, some really beautiful pieces of engineering, and definitely old, from somewhere around the turn of the 19th, 20th century. So this first one is an Oscar Simon lens. He was a German lens maker. This is part of a set. This is what they called and I do have some other front elements for this. This is what they called a casket set, where it came in a little box. And these front elements were interchangeable to give you different focal lengths. And this one is a number 1, which I believe is the widest that they made available. And I have a couple of other options that make it longer. I'm going to stick with the widest on this occasion. On this Oscar Simon, we have a different set of aperture markers again. This time, they're just numbered 10 rather to 7. That again, this is in the vademecum, and I have done some research on it, and I believe that with this number 1 lens in place, this number 1 element, front element in place, that should make it approximately a 7-inch lens. What is that? 12 120s, so probably about 150 mil, and I believe it is approximately f8, which I could work out obviously by measuring, but that's what the documentation says. And this one dates from approximately 1905. I believe this was towards the end of the Oscar Simon production. They went out of business somewhere in like 1910 or something, I think, from the information that I've been able to find. This next one is another one that was gifted to me by my uncle as well. And this is the oldest of the lenses that I'll be using today. This is a Perken, Sun and Rayment Rapid Rectilinear 9x7 Optimus. This is a beautiful lens. Look at that, quite a long lens actually. I've got this at somewhere around 12 inches, I believe, approximately 300 mil. And this one, again, in the vademecum, can be dated back to approximately 1895. As you can see, a little slit for your Waterhouse stops, and I do have the Waterhouse stops, so I'll be able to use those. And again, for its age, I've had these apart, all of them I've taken apart, and I've given a really good clean to as much as possible. There was some fungus, obviously, as you would expect, but they've all cleaned up pretty nicely. Long story short, I've made lens boards for all of these lenses to fit the Stenopeka. We're going to take them out and take some photos with them. What I'm not going to do is that really boring kind of identical photos side by side. Same thing over and over again. That would bore me and it would bore you. So I'm going to take a bit of a risk and try doing things a bit differently. So this is not going to be a perfect test by any means. This is more just going out and taking photos with these antique lenses and seeing what happens, basically. I'm meeting up with a model called Mel tomorrow, and we're just going to have a wander around the park and take some photos, take lots of photos, a few on each lens, with some spares just in case I screw any up, which I am probably likely to. I'm going to try and keep it all uniform by using FP4 for everything, and we'll then obviously develop them all together. So the variation here will be the lenses and also my performance. So I'm going to try and do my best to be consistent with my taking of photographs so that we can narrow down the results to the lenses. That's the plan. Let's see how it goes. I'll see you out there. Right then, I'm down here in Morton Marsh. Immediate cock up, I hit record to record an introduction and must have switched the camera off instead of on. So this is Mel, and she has very kindly agreed to wander around with me today, take lots of photos on lots of different lenses. We're going to start off with a control on my Schneider 210, which is obviously a much more modern lens. So that will be our kind of test bed. That will be our constant. We'll start with that and then move on to the antique lenses. So if you want to turn your shoulders that way for me, that's it, and then head back to me. Lovely. Okay, you don't need to hold still just yet. I will tell you when that moment arrives. First sheet of FP4. Trees in the background, and this one is on the Schneider 210. So Mel, if you're holding nice and still, shutter is cocked. Dark slide's coming out. Ready? And straight down the lens, please. 3, 2, 1. Lovely. There we go. We're all done. At ease, Mel. You can, yes. Right, so that is our control done. So that's the one shot with the Schneider. So what I'm going to do now, let's start with the Ross London Teleros, because that's one that I've used before. So I've got a vague idea of what this is going to do. So I'm going to mount that lens, and I think we'll just stay where we are. We'll do another one in this position, and then we'll move. And we'll do 3 with this lens before we move on to the next one. Okay. All right, super. One of the things I need to do is I want you to have a slightly different pose for each photo we take. So ideally we're not going to have two exactly the same.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because that way I know which one's which. Because the only other way of me doing it, I could follow the numbers, but then I have to develop the sheets kind of one by one. So what we'll do, let's move you around this way a tiny bit. So let's just round to there and stop there for me. And we'll go wide open with this. Yeah, perfect. That looks lovely. All right, we're in business. Here we go. Good. Let's take it to F11. Okay, somehow I now need to try and essentially uncover that lens for 1/10 of a second. All right then, so this is the first shot with the Teleros. Out comes the dark slide. You ready? Looking straight down the lens, please. Here we go. Let's stick with the same lens. Just do a wider one. Let's go this way. So are you in position? Are you roughly where you're going to be? Beautiful. That's nice. All right, cool. Dark slide's coming out. Ready? Wow, I already nudged that. So I'm going to do that one again. I nudged the camera. Yeah, so there'll be motion blur in it basically. Okay, you ready? Okay, that was better. That'll be a keeper. We'll keep that one. Okay, so a final shot with, what did we do? We did a close up. Let's do a super close one, if that's all right. So if you're gonna come stand about here. Right, ready? Straight down the lens. You still in the same position? Okay, here it comes. So that is the end of the London Teleros. I actually did quite a few sheets on that because I kept screwing it up. So next up, let us move on to, let's go Perken, Sun and Rayment next, if that's all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Very well, Mel says yes. Let's go with that. So let's mount this lens and then we'll move a bit.
Okay, lovely.
But this is a really long lens actually. It doesn't look too bad. Go on, let's walk down that way a little bit, yeah. So it is really dark under these trees and that's a good thing because I do not have a shutter. And obviously trying to achieve, you know, even a 20th or a 30th of a second with my hand is fairly ridiculous. All right, we're in good shape here. This is good. Go for it and then go and stick your head under the hood of that and you can see what I see. Squat down a little bit. You see it?
Oh yeah, I see. I see that being upside down.
Yeah, upside down, back to front.
Oh, cool.
It's still telling me that I'm going to need to do like a 20th of a second, which obviously I'm not going to be able to do. There's a lot of bellows extension though, so we're going to have to account for that. Right then, ready Mel? Okay, dark slide's coming out. Dark slide is out. Exposure coming up, ready? Keep that one and let's move on to a new lens. So let us now move on to, that's the Emil Busch Aplanat. Let's keep that for later. Let's move on to this one, which is the Oscar Simon. Lens on, lens on. Right, Mel's very kindly agreed to just creep into the kind of thistles and the scrub a little bit so that we can get that texture. You okay there?
Yeah.
Trekking into the bushes. Sorry about that. Move that a little bit. Just a little bit. A bit more. There, perfect. That's the one. You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine, don't worry.
She's not very happy with me. I'm fine, don't worry, is the model's code word for I'm alright for now. You make me go any further in here, my patience will run out very quickly. Excellent, we're going to come back a little bit. This will be great because we've got some foliage on the same plane as you, which means that that'll be in a little bit in focus as well, but what's behind you won't be. And let's get that chin down a little bit, angrier. There you go. Loving it. Okay, dark side coming out. Holding nice and still. Okay, we'll do a super close on this one. That's all right. Yeah. So that pose you had a minute ago, hand in hair, that's the one. Right then, you ready? Yeah. Dark side's coming out. Let's try and be quick about this again. I need 2 of these, I think. Right, ready? Let's leave it at ease. Thank you, Mel. It's a cracking job. Right, so that is the Oscar Simon lens finish. I'm moving on to this Busch Aplanat, which again you've seen in action before. It's not my first time with this one, but I do like it. I think what we'll do, let's turn ourselves around to about there.
Okay.
I'm going to do a really close just headshot again. And then what we might do, let's keep the hands away this time. I'm going to come a bit closer to you if that's all right. Great. Put that in. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Out comes the dark side. 3, 2, 1. Right then, that is the majority of this testing done. I definitely screwed up a lot of it, but hopefully we'll have enough to get a sense of what these lenses are like. We'll just do one more of Mel sitting down on a bench over there. With a smile on her face for the portfolio. Let's go do that and then we'll call it quits. And we've got to shutter straight down the lens. Right then, that is the end of this shoot, so we'll take those back, develop them, see how we got on, and it's just started raining. You can put your umbrella up, we don't have to pretend it's not raining. Mel, thank you very much, you're amazing. Thank you for being patient. And I'll put a link to Mel's, what are you on, Purple Port or something, is it? Purple Port, yeah. Yeah, I'll put a link to Mel's Purple Port down below. Right then, so what did you think of that? I think the first thing to mention, obviously, is that lenses without shutters are very difficult to take photos with, or at least portraits. If you were taking landscapes, then you could at least have a relatively still scene and you wouldn't get too much movement within it. There was movement introduced to some of those by me taking the lens cap off. There was also movement introduced by Mel because she was standing up, and there's a limit to how still anybody can stand. And obviously me bumping the camera here and there as I took that lens cap off, and you know, I cocked a few of them up. But I still got some, what I think are some lovely images out of that. I think my personal favourite from the day was this one, or I actually quite like the Oscar Simon, that sort of waist up one that we did in the bushes with Mel. I thought that came out quite nice and lots of detail for a lens of that sort of era. Also really like this one. This is the Emil Busch Rapid Aplanat number 2. I think Mel looks fantastic in this one. Interesting, the kind of rendering of light on that Emil Busch lens. And I sort of found this on that photo that I took of the tree out in South Africa, where you're getting a kind of a brightening and a softness around the center, so especially on that tree, and again in this one I feel like I'm getting most contrast in the middle, and the contrast drops off a bit around the edges, which actually makes it quite a nice effect. Lots going on anyway with these lenses. I think my 2 favorite ones are the ones that I had before, which are the Emil Busch Aplanat and the Ross of London Teleros. One thing that I am going to be doing very soon on the channel is some dry tin types and some glass plates, and I think some of those older lenses are just perfectly suited to that, because that's basically what they were designed for, right? That's what they're created for, shooting on glass plates and tin types and the like. So I may well combine these antique lenses with those glass plates and dry tin types and see what sort of results we get. So as I talked about, a slightly imperfect test, far too many variables for us to really get a good sense of what each of these lenses was like. But good for me to see what sort of results we're getting, and I hope you found it interesting and useful as well. Absolute boatload coming up on the channel, so if you're not currently subscribed, please do subscribe. Next up is Cower 6, which has recently come into my possession. I'll be taking that out for a spin. After that, possibly glass plates or dry tin types. That's probably coming up soon as well. There are some new additions. I don't know if you can see. It would be, where are we? We've got 1, 2, 3. That one, that's the Cower 6, by the way. That one is a Fuji GX 680, which has recently come into my possession, and I am in the process of wiring up a slightly dodgy makeshift battery because you can't get the batteries for them anymore. Typical. I may have come up with a very interesting solution, so stick around for that. Come and watch that video. Next up, Cower 6, glass plates, tin types. After that, I will see you for that one. Right, bye.